Hello YouTube, De-bodgery here. So I guess this is what, video 3 or something? I've lost count. You know, I tend to yammer on and I forget where I'm at. Of my Gotway teardown video. Yeah, where I take everything apart, all the bits. So the first thing I want to talk about is the LED. So I took this apart, and inside there is a Chinese XPL2 LED. And that was very convenient because in this bag of LED goodness, I've got legit Cree XPL2s, and I have been using them to make keychain lights as Christmas presents, birthday presents, things like that for a good little while. So I have quite a few in there, and it was very convenient to see that this little LED board inside here had an XPL on it. So anyway, that LED will get replaced. I turned this on, and through the button here you can set the brightness. So I set this to maximum brightness, and then I took my tiny little keychain light, which is, you know, literally the diameter of that pen. It takes a little teeny tiny lithium ion cell, which I haven't charged in a year and a half. So it's not even fully charged, but yet it was still probably 3 to 4 times brighter than this. So yeah, that's going to get reflowed, and it's going to get an XPL2 in it so that it's got some decent brightness, because right now, you know, like a lot of people say, they're pathetically bright, and I would have to agree. It is. Anyway, that's pretty easy to do, and it's all an aluminum host here, so that'll be plenty enough aluminum to heat sink away anything for an XPL2. You'll notice around everything here that there is hot glue. Yeah, hot glue. So this LED, you can see there's a little screw right there, but otherwise all around the outside of here, it was all stuck in place with very poorly applied hot glue. Yeah, way to go, China. Super duper good. All right, let's move on to the controller. And here we go. So the first thing I want to point out is this stupid little fan on top. Right. Nearly utterly useless. Keep in mind that when this is all assembled, you have the battery pack right here. You know, it's basically a block that sits in this space. And then right here you have this little cavity that the controller sits in. So it's in 100% dead air space. There is nowhere for new air, cool air, to get in. So all that fan's going to do is blow hot air on everything. It's, well, not going to do much good. This is the Bluetooth module, and this is a very common Bluetooth module. I've used them dozens of times. If you buy a Chinese BMS, you're probably, that's smart, you'll probably get this Bluetooth module on it. I've seen these things used in tons of places. So I have it unplugged at the moment. Let me plug that bad boy back in. So there it is. Okay, so there is silicone caulk on here to hold it in place, but it's totally unsupported. It's flopping around like that. When I pulled this thing apart, I went, oh, that's kind of weird. It's just sitting there. And then I did this and was like, oh, shit, that's going to be super awesome. Yeah, that's just going to bounce around with every bounce, every turn, you know, jump or whatever. It's going to sit there and vibrate, and it's going to eventually break off and fail. So anyway, come on, China. You can do better than that. Seriously? You know, how about if you just put a little bit of foam tape underneath there, for goodness sake, just as something to support it. This is the MCU. It's an STM32 sinusoidal MCU chip. Over here, so there's some parts of this thing that I really like. For example, these are the MOSFET controllers over here. And so all that stuff is done with, you know, decent grade components. It's the same sort of thing I would expect to see in a higher end motor controller. And here they've got this stuff. And by the way, if you look at everybody's motor controllers out there that's in these stupid wheels, they're almost all laid out exactly like this. You know, slightly variation of placement or a little bit further apart or whatever, but nearly exactly the same. And even down to this. So, you know, you have 2 shunts over here and 2 shunts over here. So phase 1 and phase 3 have current sensing, and phase 2 does not, which is weird. I really thought that I would hate these bullet connectors, but actually pulling them out is rather difficult. They are really secure. So I would say, way to go, that was good, but I was not expecting that. I really thought they were going to be shitty and cheap. I don't know what MOSFETs are in here, because, well, there's a pain factor. I got to take out all these damn screws, and and those ones too, and then I can pull the board up to see the MOSFETs. But I would like to see what that is. But you know, considering how they're doing things like using Nichicon 1000 microfarad capacitors and several other things, I have to say probably the MOSFETs are not, you know, some shitty Chinese whatever. They're probably, you know, like Infineons or something, which is good. So in that regard, it's good. The board or the heatsink rather, come on, turn it out, is okay-ish. But this is not really heat sink. This is a heat spreader, and it's really not that thick. So, you know, a proper heat spreader, you're going to have some decent material here. Probably something that's on the order of about 10 millimeters, 12 millimeters thick even. That's going to cover all the MOSFETs. And it's not. This is more like, say, what, 3 millimeters or so? So in that perspective, it's not enough material. And also the fact that it's in dead air space, so it can't radiate heat very well. So basically these controllers, they sit in their own heat, and they just sweat like crazy and overheat. That's why you see them burning out, by the way. It's because they go thermonuclear because they can't cool down. And that stupid little fan is not doing anything. Because first of all, it's blowing on top of the board. It's not blowing across the aluminum. And it's not blowing, you know, cool air there either. So cooling is basically on the Bluetooth module for whatever stupid reason. And maybe a little bit gets over to the MCU or something. But it's certainly not cooling anything that really super matters, like the MOSFETs. Okay, so I wanted to talk about safety a little bit. And I showed you the BMS has no protection whatsoever in it for the battery pack. Well, here's the other end of that. So that's another XT60. And it goes straight down into the board. And there are no fuses, there's no breaker, there is nothing at all. I mean, that's literally the 2 battery buses right there that go straight to the board. So when you see those videos of people just absolutely burning their controller boards to a crisp, well, that's why. There's nothing to shut off. You know, you have to take the damn thing apart to get to the XT60 connector, and by that time it's much too late. You know, the thing has already been sitting there, you know, been past thermonuclear and gone into, you know, middle of the sun sort of temperatures, just frying itself, you know, and all the current it can pull from the battery pack, because nothing shuts off. It just stays connected. There needs to be safety in these things. There needs to be a breaker. The BMS needs to be able to shut off, you know, current, you know, outflow from it. And there's nothing. There's nothing anywhere. There's no safety here at all. It's purely luck. That's your safety margin. And one of these days, somebody's going to be riding their wheel, and they're going to be on, you know, something like a Sherman, something fast, and the thing is going to go thermonuclear on them, catch fire, and burn their ass off, literally, while they're riding it. And it's going to be doing like 50 miles an hour, and all they can do is bail off of the thing while their wheel is over there flaming itself. You know, just because the battery pack has caught fire, because there's just no protection in these things. Looking at teardown videos, I'd have to say that I have yet to see protection in anything. And yet I have seen several teardown videos where people's boards have just burnt themselves to ash. And it's because there is no safety protection. There's no cutoffs anywhere. There's nothing. There's no breaker you can open. No fuse that blows. Nothing. You're just hardwired straight to the battery pack all the time. And I gotta say, bad. I build EVs. You know, this is my hobby, building EVs. I can tell you for a fact there is not a single one of my EVs that doesn't at least have a contactor in it, and it probably has breakers. So that, you know, it will automatically shut itself off and overload. And my BMSs certainly have MOSFETs that will cut power. So in every possible way, I'm thinking about not killing myself and not catching fire, because I can certainly shut things down. And there is none of that in here. This is all just, you're going to be lucky when it blows up that it just goes as far as like burning the board. Because it can get a lot worse. Oh, tell me about it. Yeah, you have a lithium-ion fire? Yeah, it's going to be plenty fun. It's going to be one of those sort of things where you just like let it burn, because it's just going to burn itself until there's nothing left to burn. It's not a great plan. All right, so that's the controller. And I would have to say it's good and it's bad. At least it's sinusoidal. At least it's got decent filtering on it now. which is good. I think China realized that, a lot of the failures that they were seeing in boards was simply because the power bus was just way too noisy, and so it would probably cause jitteriness in the motors. It would cause MOSFETs to blow, things like that. So that's a good. However, looking underneath, I'm not going to be able to show it to you on camera. I can just see the MOSFET legs in there, and they are too long. The skinny parts of the legs are what's soldered into the board and not the fatter part. And that basically means that you're going to build up a lot of leg heat, from current flow, which means the MOSFETs are going to run hot. And really you should have the fat section right snugged up against the board and have solder on it so that the traces on the board can sink away heat from the legs, and also so that you have the fattest current path from the MOSFET into the board. And none of that's in place here. Also, looking through like that little space down there, I can see that there's no copper reinforcing whatsoever. So it's simply the traces on the board, so you can see them in here, that are your current path. So from that perspective, somebody who's modified plenty of motor controllers for more wattage, I can tell you for a fact that it works, but it isn't going to work well. You really want added copper there, a lot of added copper, and there's none. They basically have whatever this is. To me, it looks like about, I don't know, half a paper's thickness worth of copper on both sides. Yeah, it's not going to really conduct current particularly well. Anyway, I think that's the end of this video, and the next one will be about the shell.